Hello, welcome back to the channel, the Manga Man here, and today we're talking about solo leveling 169. It feels like it's been a while, and for once it's not my fault that we haven't made a video on solo leveling. We've just had a 2 week plus break, so it has been about 3 weeks since I've made a video. With this chapter being relatively straightforward, I will keep this short and sweet, but without further ado, let's get into this review. So realistically, with this chapter, there is probably 3 or 4 talking points really with this chapter, and ultimately I'll just kind of go down the order of the events and kind of give you my thoughts. The first thing is with the summit and essentially Sun Jin Woo telling them what's going to happen and they're not believing it. That is nature. It's like anything else. If you say to somebody such an unbelievable, unimaginable thing, the first thing you're going to be met with is skepticism. And then when you try to show them, then you're going to get met with fear. And that's ultimately what happens in this. No one believes him. He tells them exactly what they need to know, but, you know, some people believe him, some people don't. Then we move on to S-rank hunter J. Wills, who creates a force in Canada. Apparently he thinks he's going to do something. And we're clearly told and shown in this chapter that it's not going to amount to anything. But ultimately that is again human nature. And obviously when you get to a certain level of power, you kind of feel like you want to rely on your power only. And sometimes it does skew your judgment. And unfortunately, he's not going to live to tell the tale. The next bit is just funny. The whole thing with Sun Jin Woo and his crew, and building the castle and them bowing the way they bow, and all that sort of thing. That's all funny, but all this really is the calm before the storm. But we do get an interesting piece of information and confirmation of two things. Number one, the army's going to be or at least 10 million that's going to come and attack, because it's 100 times more substantial than Sun Jin Woo's, and he says 10 million, which obviously tells you that Sun Jin Woo's army is around 100,000, which also tells you that they have a 1% chance of winning, and they want to drag this out. So they believe the idea of the multiple gates is to do with getting that large and vast of army out there. But by doing so, splitting up the army makes it a little bit believable if they can take care of, or doable I should say, if they can take care a gate at a time. Which prompts Sun Jin Woo to go to China, because that's the closest gate, and when he gets there, he's met with Lu Zhigang. He sees the Chinese army being vast and apparently being strong, and then the gate responds, but nothing happens. And then that sets off everything else, because he fears that the furthest gate away from him is the one that is coming through, and that's how it starts. And it starts off with Antares coming to Earth and asking if the king is there, to which Jay Will's like, yeah, I'm the king, and then the slaughter basically begins. Sun Jin Woo's trying to help Mr. White, but Mr. White sees a bright light and is in for a quick one-way trip to hell or heaven, depending if they've got that in the system of solo leveling. So that is pretty much the chapter. Now, what we have to remember is Antares is the big bad as far as the monarchs are concerned. Realistically, the rest of the monarchs are pretty much done, and he's the only one realistically that's ever really be compared to Sun Jin Woo. Now, bearing in mind the monarch that Sun Jin Woo has, the monarch of death, the shadow monarch, has been compared and is comparable to Antares. That doesn't necessarily mean they are equal. And ultimately for him, Antares, the monarch of the Dragon King monarch, to be the big bad, he will need to be stronger than Sun Jin Woo. Aside from his vast armies, he will physically need to be stronger than Sun Jin Woo for this to be a scary, raising the stakes, life or death situation. And the fact that they mention the Shadow Monarch, and if he dies, what happens if a monarch dies, you kind of see where this is going. It's going to be a life or death thing. That's all we know. That being said, very interesting way to come back. It's the calm before the storm, and we're literally going into the eye of the storm with this fight. Will the remaining two monarchs appear? I'm guessing they will, but how it all plays out, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I want to make sure that they get dealt with and they don't really interfere with the fight with Sun Jin Woo and Antares. So we will see what happens. But there's Full Body and there's Yogamut or Yogamot. I don't know his name, I'll be honest. And as long as they can stall them not to interfere, it'll make it an interesting fight. An uphill battle, but interesting nonetheless. And that is our return back to the solo leveling universe. And I'll see you next time. Peace.